Hey, what's up, everybody? Wanted to come on here live again today and talk about a topic that honestly I've been talking with a lot of people about lately. And since I have access to this Restream software, it's just going to be a way that I can connect with everybody in a platform that I don't have to overthink it, right? Because I've been focused a lot on creating content, but there's a lot that goes into it. So I will tell you that I respect content creators more and more every single day because of everything that goes into the editing and the posting and all of those things. But this is one way that I can't really judge it, and I don't have to focus on editing it because it's just live. And so let me know which platform you're on. If you're tuning in right now, let me know if you're watching me on YouTube, Facebook, on my business page on Facebook, on my LinkedIn, or if you're seeing this somewhere else, because I'd love to know, where you guys are coming from. So the topic that I wanted to talk about is why I became a real estate agent. Now, if you don't know me, just a little background on me, I'm a total real estate nerd. Like, I decided when I was 17 years old that I wanted to be a real estate investor. And there's a lot that went into that. I won't jump into that whole backstory, but I will say that knowing that I wanted to be a real estate investor specifically, I didn't really want to be a real estate agent, and I didn't have any desires to for many years, right? And so what I did was I got into creative real estate. And if you guys don't know what creative real estate is, then I'm happy to chat with you about just the different strategies that are out there. I will tell you right now that you can buy real estate regardless of your circumstances. That's one thing that I've been able to prove. If there's anything that I've been able to prove over the years, it is that you can buy real estate regardless of your circumstances, because I have been through the highs and through the lows. I've been with little credit. I've been with bad credit. I've been with no money. I've been, with money. And through all of that, I've been buying real estate. Essentially, ever since I was, I bought my first house when I was, I think, 19 or 20 years old. And, since then I've been focused on buying in real estate. But I will tell you that I went through a lot of programs that didn't work. And from the age of 18 to 22, I need to do this the opposite way because this is mirrored. So 18 to 22, I spent tens of thousands of dollars and a lot of time. I mean, I would take my lunches and I would go study trying to figure out how to get into real estate investing. And it wasn't until I met a group where I had local mentorship. I had people that I could connect with that were actually on the same path as me, and started working with them. And at 22 years old, I walked away from my job, and probably wasn't the best idea. I'm not saying I'm the shining example of how to get started in real estate, because though I had a program that worked very well, I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I made some decisions that weren't always the best, but I grew so much from it, and I'm grateful for every single experience, regardless. I mean, it's just, the things that I've been able to experience in real estate, like I said, have proven that you can buy real estate regardless of your circumstances and what you have going on. And so I was focused in just being an investor, and I worked with a program that helped others get involved as well. So essentially, from the beginning, from the start of my real estate career, I was also helping other people get started in real estate, and specifically on the investing side of real estate. And I'll tell you, through that, I had some okay experiences with real estate agents along the way. And I had, a lot of not so great experiences with real estate agents along the way. And I kind of got into this mindset that I feel like now, looking backwards, probably was a hindrance. But, what I really felt like when I was selling my properties was that every single real estate agent was the same. They were going to offer me the same type of service. They were going to do the same type of thing. And I looked at it as, that's a big expense if I'm getting the exact same service. I'm all about value, right? If you become a real estate investor, I don't care about cost. I care about value. I don't care if the property is $100,000 or $1 million if I don't know anything about the property. And so if the property is $1 million, but it's worth $2 million, I absolutely want that. But if it's only $100,000, but it's only worth $70,000, I definitely don't want that, right? Like, that's just the simple of it. If you're thinking about, how are you buying for value? Well, it was the same thing with hiring real estate professionals. And so I had some really good friends along the way that I worked with primarily to list my properties, because I had this mindset that all I needed access to was the MLS and I could do it everything else, right? Maybe there was a little bit of ego in there, but quite frankly, I could negotiate better than most of the real estate agents that I was working with. I understood my situation and, the seller, the buyer situation, the people that were buying my houses more than the agents that I was working with. And so I really just paid the minimum possible. But guess what? By paying the minimum, I usually got the minimum, right? I mean, I can't really be somebody's priority in their business when I am the one who is discounting from the get-go. From the very start of the conversation, I'm asking for discounts. I mean, that's just the way that I was. And so therefore, I feel like there's probably a lot of transactions that I could have got better representation. I could have had an agent more excited about selling my properties. And by paying them what they were worth, I probably would have gotten a better service, right? But not necessarily just because of that. It would have been that I actually sought out somebody who was doing something different. It would have been that I looked for somebody that was doing, something different. And quite frankly, I didn't find much of that throughout the years until I worked with a guy named Jay Deere. And Jay is actually the originator of Real Estate Essentials on ABC4. He had lined that up. And really, I got a call from Cherie, who is his fiance now. And she's also, the president of the company. I believe that's her role. Anyways, Cherie, amazing lady. And she saw one of my remodels. And so in seeing that remodel, she said, this property would look amazing on TV. And I was like, tell me more. I like the idea. And they showed me what they were doing. They showed me the TV show they had. And so I paid Jay more than I paid pretty much any other agent that I worked with, because he was giving me something more. He was putting me on television. He was going above and beyond. He was doing these, extra open houses. He even parked a car outside my house with a big old sign attached to the back of it. Like, he was willing to create a plan and do the extra marketing that cost money out of his pocket. I remember he even invested in staging at one point on one property. And, he did these different things that I could see the value there. And so I was willing to pay more for that value. And fast forward let's see, it was coming towards the end of 2020. Now, 2020 was an interesting year, right? For a lot of people it was. But while a lot of people, 2020 was a really downer year, like it was something, where they started to see a dip in a lot of areas of their life. For me, 2020 was like a huge upswing. I let go of some things in my life that were just not working. And I started to focus in on rebuilding my business and my life. And so 2020 for me was actually like a slingshot forward. Now, with that, I had a few different income streams that I could focus on. And I really decided I was going to push in multiple areas and see which one, really kind of took off. And in that process, I made the decision that I wanted to get my real estate license, because I saw a gap in the marketplace, that same gap that held me back in not looking for the best possible agent, but instead just finding the person that could give me the best deal. I knew that if there was somebody out there that was doing more, that would go above and beyond, that cared about me and my interests more than they did their commissions, that I would have hired them, and I would have paid full price, if not more, right? I would have been glad to pay for value. And so I decided for myself, I could fill that gap. I know what's lacking. I knew what I wished I had access to and what I wished somebody would do for me in the situations when I was trying to sell my house. And so I had all these grand ideas of how I was going to do it. I'll tell you that. I had all these grand ideas and a media team that I was going to put together, and, the thousands of dollars that I was going to spend on every single listing. And I started figuring out that I needed to find a brokerage that would allow me to be me, would allow me to go all in on the way that I wanted to represent my clients, and at the same time wouldn't hold me back from going out there and doing the business that I love, which is real estate investing, right? So there's a couple of things that you should look for if you guys are ever thinking about getting your real estate license and it's time to pick a brokerage. You got to look at the resources that they have that are going to help you succeed. Nobody's going to do it for you. So if they're making promises that they're going to feed you leads and they're going to do this, I'm telling you, that's not what you need and that's not what you want for your business. What you want is, what are the tools they have access to that can help you stand out from the crowd? And that's what I was looking for, is what tools were there? Who was I going to be surrounded by? Was I going to be surrounded by people who were lifting me up and building me up and cheering me on? Or was I going to be in an office where it was competitive and I was looking over my shoulder, trying to decide, if somebody's trying to swoop into my clients, right? Because I've heard of it. I've heard that it's out there. I've talked to people about like a dog eat dog type of environment, and I didn't want that. So what are the tools? What is the environment going to be like? And then with that environment, are they going to be restrictive in you building your business the way that you want to you build your business? Are they going to be restrictive in you having other business interests or ideas? Because that's the last thing that you want, is a career that is actually holding you back from building something bigger and better. And so I interviewed with a lot of different brokerages out there. And I'll tell you, there was a lot of good options. There was some really great brokers that I met with and teams that I met with. And it was a hard decision in the end. And, this new model had kind of came onto the scene shortly before I got my license, where you could have kind of a progressive model where if you help other agents, get involved in the brokerage, then you can get paid in that as well. So that was enticing to me. I was looking at this as, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all the way. And I want to build something big. I want to do something dramatically different. And, quite frankly, I didn't have all the answers, but I went and talked to different brokerages. And then Jay Deere, that I told you about earlier, actually reached out to me as I was out there interviewing. He heard that I had got my real estate license. And when I knew Jay before, he was just Jay. It was Jay and Real Estate Essentials. In fact, it used to say Real Estate Essentials with Jay Deere, because that was his thing. It was like, that was his little project. But what I didn't know was, during the time frame of working with him, in him helping me sell my properties and me deciding to get my real estate license, he had actually opened up a brokerage. ABC had wanted to extend out the show. They wanted to have more content. And he's like, I can only get so many listings to fill this space. And so he opened up a brokerage, and he had a couple of agents that were working with him. And so he reached out to me. We sat down, and it was a hard decision, because I had already kind of in my mind thought about these other places that I was going to go, these other people that I was going to work with, these friends of mine. But Jay had everything that I was trying to create, as far as the media and the marketing and the exposure that I could get for my clients and their properties. He had it at a level that would have taken me years and years to build. And so I got my license because I wanted to be something different. Obviously, I wanted this to be one of my main income streams, right? And I was going to have to replace the other income streams that had paid me six figures over the years. So I jumped in. I went through the process of getting my license, which I kind of shortcutted that the best that I could, because most of the information that you learn in your real estate classes to become an agent is not about running a business. It's not about building a real estate business. It's basically how to stay out of trouble, and the laws and the rules, and how things work, and the contracts, which I knew majority of that from being in real estate for as many years as I had, right? So I rushed through the classes as quick as I could, took my test. And here's the thing that I didn't necessarily expect: the amount of support that I had behind me. I mean, I actually had a friend, Trent, if you're watching this, thank you, brother, for the very first property, very first listing. Before I even had my license activated, he was already talking to me about listing a property that his wife had inherited in a situation where her mom had passed away. And so literally from day one, I had listings, and it has taken off. And I've had so many people just cheering me on, like unexpectedly watching and cheering me on and congratulating me every time something good happens. And it's been a great additional business, not only because of the income that I've made, because I've made some great income in the process, but also the fact of being able to represent people that I care about, be able to help them win in big ways. It's something that I've been really grateful for. And there's a couple of things that I've seen as I've been an agent, and I've been watching the market and the people who are listing their property for sale by owner, like I used to do. I used to, on every single property that I would flip, I would always give myself some time where I would list it for sale by owner. And then if it didn't sell within a certain amount of time, then I would turn around and find a way to get access to putting it on the MLS, because that's the biggest marketplace for real estate. But what I didn't realize was I was potentially missing out in some huge upside, right? So there's two things that I've seen people do in this process. I've seen some people that have gone and listed their house for sale by owner, and they've overpriced it. And in overpricing it, it ended up sitting on the market. They ended up getting frustrated and either at that point decided to get an agent, or they ended up getting kind of negotiated down to a price that they didn't really want to be at. Or the second thing that I've seen is people underprice the property. And in this market that we've had recently, this is the scary part, is I've seen people sell their homes for substantially less than what they could have sold them for. And hey, if they were happy and they were okay with that, I guess it's just fine. But they left money on the table that could have been theirs, money that they have worked hard for, money that, the simple fact that they have gone through whatever they've gone through to own that property as long as they have, they deserved that equity. But I've seen people lose out on the upside potential by not getting proper exposure and not getting their property in front of as many eyes as possible. And that's something now as a licensed professional that I really believe is the more exposure that you have, the more people that you have seeing your property, and the right people, by the way, because it's not just anybody and everybody. You want the right people to see your property. And that's the interesting thing about it too, is every single property has its own story, and every single property has its own audience, if you will, right? And so if you've got a property that has horse property, for example, you want to make sure that you're going into the Facebook groups and the marketplaces where the people are who have horses or animals or want that extra land, right? But if your property is something where it's maybe it's a multifamily, it's a condo, but it's in a really good place for short-term rentals and your HOA allows that, well, you may have a different audience that you want to get that property in front of when you put it on the market. And so that's one of the things that I really love doing on the side when I decide to list somebody's property and we work together, is let's create a plan based around that individual home, because every single home has its own story, has its own audience, and that audience is where you're going to find your buyers. So it's been a ton of fun, guys. It's something that I'm still absolutely passionate about. Will continue to have in my repertoire while I'm doing everything else. I still have my own properties, my own investment properties, though I have sold off a lot of my portfolio. I still, of course, I shouldn't say still, I am working with this startup that is raising a fund to help people that are syndicating large real estate transactions. But in addition to that, I will continue to represent people as a licensed professional. And I'm, it sounds corny, right? I'm picky about who I work with, right? A lot of people will say that, and there might not be a lot of weight behind it, but I've been really blessed in the people that I have gotten the chance to work with. And there are people that I absolutely would not take on as clients because of my schedule, because of everything else that I have going, and because the time value the value of time versus money. And I've got a lot going on right now, but like I said, something that I'm passionate about is this side of the business. So if you guys have any questions, any other thoughts about me becoming a real estate agent, 15 years, over 15 years, probably 16, 17 years as a real estate investor before I decided to get my license. And I never really had the desire to get it before then. And I may have missed out on some opportunity. But the one thing I will say is I'm really grateful that I went the route of being an investor first and understanding all of the creative ways of doing real estate before getting my real estate license. Because quite frankly, if I'm being honest with you, there's a lot of stuff when you're learning to become a real estate agent that makes all the creative stuff seem very scary. And it's not that scary, guys. There's ways to do it. There's ways to do it safe. There's ways to do it where you can protect yourself and others. So that's my thoughts. Wanted to come to you live while I was over here at the studio, and I hope you guys have a great night.